The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside, thousands of alien representatives sat in curved rows that reached toward the ceiling. The chamber had seen 3,000 years of peace talks, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. Today, it would witness something entirely different. At the center of the chamber, a hologram flickered to life. The tall, gray-skinned figure of High Commander Reed of the Stellar Empire appeared, his four arms crossed in what many species recognized as a gesture of aggression. Members of the Galactic Council, Reed's voice boomed through the chamber. For 3 millennia, we have maintained peace among the stars. Today, the Stellar Empire declares that peace over. He paused, letting his words sink in. We hereby declare war on humanity. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 100 different species began shouting, their translator devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Some stood up in protest, others huddled in groups, whispering frantically. Only 2 figures remained perfectly still. In the human section, Ambassador Brown sat quietly, hands folded in his lap. Next to him, his aide watched the hologram with what appeared to be mild curiosity. As the chaos continued around them, Brown did something that confused every alien present. He laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh or a mocking one. It was the kind of laugh someone might give when hearing a particularly good joke. His shoulders shook slightly as he tried to contain his amusement. High Commander Reed's hologram flickered with rage. You dare mock the might of the Stellar Empire? We have the strongest fleet in the galaxy. Our weapons can shatter planets. Our shields are impenetrable. Brown stood up slowly, straightening his simple black uniform. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with various representatives. Some had been his allies over the past decades, others merely acquaintances. All watched him with a mixture of pity and concern. My friends, he said, his voice carrying easily over the now quiet chamber. For 200 years, humanity has been part of this wonderful galactic community. We've learned your ways, shared your knowledge, and respected your traditions. He smiled, but there was something in that smile that made several representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. We've been called primitive by some, he continued. Our ships are considered basic, our weapons outdated, our technology simple. He chuckled again. The Stellar Empire believes they can easily crush us under their mighty heel. Brown turned to face Reed's hologram directly. High Commander, there's an old saying on Earth. Let them think you are weak, until it's time to show them how strong you are. The human ambassador reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. With a casual gesture, he pressed a button. Instantly, every screen in the chamber went dark. When they came back on seconds later, they showed something that made the blood of every alien species run cold. The screens displayed hundreds of massive warships, emerging from what appeared to be hidden bases throughout Earth's solar system. Ships that were definitely not the primitive vessels humanity had claimed to possess. Their design was sleek, predatory, and unmistakably advanced. You see, Brown said, his voice now carrying a hint of steel, humans never really trusted that peace would last forever. It's not in our nature. So while we smiled and played nice, we prepared. For 200 years, we prepared. He turned to leave the chamber, then paused. Oh, and High Commander, those impenetrable shields of yours, we cracked their frequency decades ago. Those planet-shattering weapons, we've had countermeasures ready for a century. He smiled one last time. We accepted your friendship with open arms, but we kept a blade behind our back, just in case. As Brown walked out of the chamber, his laughter echoing off the crystal walls, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. They finally understood why humans had found the declaration of war so amusing. The Stellar Empire hadn't just broken the peace. They had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a reason to show its teeth. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a command center that officially didn't exist, Earth's military leaders gathered around a massive holographic table. The room was carved from moon rock, and reinforced with meters of thick metal, designed to withstand any known weapon in the galaxy. Admiral Thomas stood at the head of the table, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. "The Stellar Empire gave us their ultimatum an hour ago," he said, pressing a button that brought up the message for all to see. "They demand Earth's complete surrender within 24 hours. General Miller, commander of Earth's hidden fleet, let out a quiet chuckle. "They really have no idea, do they?" "No," Thomas replied, a small smile crossing his face. "They don't." He pressed another button, and a section of wall slid open to reveal a vault. Inside sat a single metal box marked with the words Protocol Omega, just in case. The military leaders watched as Thomas placed his hand on the DNA scanner. With a soft hiss, the box opened, revealing a collection of data crystals that glowed with an inner light. Each crystal contained battle plans that had been refined over 2 centuries. "When humanity first met aliens," Thomas said, picking up one of the crystals, "our leaders made a decision. We would join their peaceful galaxy, learn from them, trade with them. But we would never, ever stop preparing for war." He inserted the crystal into the holographic table. Immediately, the display changed, showing a complex web of hidden military installations throughout the solar system. Weapons platforms disguised as communication satellites, warships hidden in asteroid bases, massive gun batteries buried under the ice of Europa. "For 200 years," Miller added, "we've fed them carefully crafted misinformation. Every piece of technology we shared was outdated. Every military capability we demonstrated was a fraction of our true strength." The room's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The face of the Stellar Empire's war commander appeared, his gray skin flushed with anger. "Humans, you have not responded to our ultimatum. Your silence will not save you. Our fleet approaches your system. Surrender now or face extinction." Thomas looked at the alien commander with something close to pity. "You know," he said conversationally, "there's something you should understand about humans. We're very good at learning from history." He pressed another button, and the tactical display showed thousands of hidden sensors activating throughout the solar system. They had been watching the Empire's ships for weeks. 3,000 years ago," Thomas continued, "your species helped create peace in the galaxy. That was admirable. But peace made you forget something important." He leaned forward, his voice growing serious. "You forgot that the most dangerous predator isn't the one that's always showing its teeth. It's the one that's waiting patiently, watching, learning your weaknesses." The war commander's face showed confusion. "What are you talking about?" "We've spent 2 centuries studying every aspect of your technology. Your shields have exactly 37 exploitable weaknesses. Your weapons systems have 93 critical vulnerabilities. We know every blind spot in your sensors, every flaw in your tactics." Thomas straightened up, his voice now carrying the weight of 200 years of preparation. "You're not declaring war on a primitive species. You're walking into a trap 2 centuries in the making." He gave the signal, and hidden command centers across the solar system sprang to life. Defense platforms emerged from their camouflaged positions. Missile silos opened on a dozen moons and asteroids, and in the darkness between planets, Earth's true fleet powered up their engines. "This is your one warning," Thomas said to the stunned war commander. "Turn your ships around. Go home. Tell your leaders they made a terrible mistake." The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in silence. General Miller looked at the tactical display, watching as the Empire's fleet continued its advance. "They're not going to retreat, are they?" he asked. Admiral Thomas shook his head. "No, they're too proud, too sure of their superiority." He smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Let's show them why humans spent 2 centuries laughing behind their backs." The Stellar Empire's warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 5,000 ships strong, their fleet stretched across space like a metal wall. Their silver hulls gleamed in the distant sunlight, weapons primed and shields humming with energy. Fleet Commander West of the Empire stood on his bridge, looking at the human solar system with satisfaction. "Launch the first wave," he ordered. "Show these primitives the price of their arrogance." 1,000 ships broke formation, accelerating toward Earth. Their sensors showed only a handful of outdated defense satellites and a few primitive patrol ships. The Empire's crews were relaxed, expecting an easy victory. They were wrong. As the first wave passed the orbit of Neptune, something strange happened. Their sensors flickered, showing ghost images that appeared and vanished. Fleet Commander West frowned. "Report." "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "we're detecting movement in the asteroid belt." Suddenly, the space around them came alive. What they had thought were simple rocks began to move. Hundreds of asteroids split open like eggs, revealing warships hidden inside. They were sleek, black vessels that seemed to drink in the light. "Impossible," West whispered. "These weren't the bulky, primitive ships humans were known for. These were predators, built for war." In the Luna Command Center, Admiral Thomas watched the tactical display with calm eyes. "All ships, you are free to engage. Show them what 200 years of preparation looks like." The human fleet moved with stunning precision. They had trained for this moment for generations. Each ship knew its role. Each weapon had a specific target. They struck like a swarm of angry wasps. The Empire's ships fired their main weapons, expecting to tear through the human vessels. Instead, their energy beams passed harmlessly through shields that shouldn't have existed. The human ships had defenses that mixed known technology with innovations the Empire had never seen. "How?" Fleet Commander West demanded as the first explosions lit up his fleet. "Their ships were primitive. We saw them." On the bridge of the human flagship Thunder, Captain White smiled. "You saw what we wanted you to see," he transmitted to the Empire's fleet. "Those primitive ships, they were props built to hide our real capabilities." The human ships demonstrated maneuvers that the Empire had thought impossible. They seemed to predict every tactic, counter every strategy. Centuries of watching and learning were paying off. In the asteroid belt, more surprises waited. Hidden weapon platforms activated, their guns tracking Empire ships with perfect accuracy. They fired strange missiles that passed right through the Empire's impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. "Sir," West's tactical officer shouted in panic. "Their weapons, they're using our own shield frequencies against us. They're hitting us exactly where we're weakest." West watched in horror as ship after ship exploded. The proud first wave of the Empire's fleet was being torn apart by an enemy they had badly underestimated. Of the 1,000 ships that had advanced, barely 100 remained after just 30 minutes of combat. In the Luna Command Center, General Miller approached Admiral Thomas. "Should we press the attack? We could take out their entire fleet now." Thomas shook his head. "No. Let the survivors retreat. Let them run back to their leaders. Let them tell everyone what happened here today." The remaining Empire ships turned and fled, their retreat covered by the rest of their fleet. As they ran, they received one final transmission from Earth. "Remember this day." Admiral Thomas's voice came clear across all channels. "Remember what happened when you thought humans were weak. Remember what happened when you broke the peace we accepted but never trusted." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And remember this, what you saw today, it's just the beginning. We have so many more surprises waiting. The question is, do you really want to see them?" The Empire's ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind the wreckage of their first wave and a single powerful truth. Humanity had never been prey pretending to be civilized. They had been predators pretending to be prey. And now the hunt had begun. The remaining ships of the Stellar Empire's fleet regrouped at the edge of the solar system. Fleet Commander West stood on his bridge, his gray skin pale with shock. 4 hours had passed since their disastrous first attack, and the humans had gone silent. "No movement from the enemy fleet, sir," his sensor officer reported. "They're just waiting." Wes stared at the tactical display. The human ships had formed a defensive line between his fleet and Earth, their black hulls barely visible against the darkness of space. They weren't advancing. They weren't retreating. They were simply waiting. Then everything changed. Deep in the clouds of Jupiter, something massive stirred. The gas giant storms parted, revealing a hidden shipyard larger than anything the Empire had ever built. From its depths rose dozens of ships that dwarfed even the Empire's largest vessels. New contacts. The sensor officer screamed. They're everywhere. On Mars, vast sections of the red planet's surface split open. Hidden bases that had been disguised as natural features revealed themselves. More ships emerged, along with weapon platforms that made the Empire's best guns look like toys. In the Luna Command Center, Admiral Thomas nodded to General Miller. Show them Phase 2. Across the solar system, human technology revealed its true face. Quantum communication arrays that had been disguised as simple weather stations activated, linking every human ship and base into a single, unified network. Defense platforms that had been hidden in plain sight, pretending to be mining stations or research outposts, powered up their real weapons. Fleet Commander West watched in growing horror as his tactical display filled with new threats. "How?" he whispered. "How did we miss all of this?" His answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth. Admiral Thomas's face appeared on his screen, calm and almost pitying. "You're wondering how we hid all this from you," Thomas said. "The answer is simple. We showed you exactly what you expected to see. Your scientists looked at our primitive technology and saw what they wanted to see. Your spies reported on our basic military capabilities and felt superior. Your leaders looked at our simple ships and thought us weak." On the tactical display, the human fleet began to move. But they didn't move like normal ships. They seemed to bend space itself, using technology that the Empire had thought impossible for centuries to come. "That research station you found on Europa last year," Thomas continued. "It wasn't studying ice samples. It was testing weapons designed specifically to counter your shield technology. Those outdated sensors you detected around Saturn, they were mapping every weakness in your fleet's formation patterns." The human ships demonstrated capabilities that shocked the Empire's crews. They could predict and dodge incoming fire before it was even fired. Their weapons struck with impossible precision, hitting exactly where the Empire's shields were weakest. "For 200 years, Thomas said, every piece of technology we showed you was a carefully crafted lie. Every weakness we displayed was a trap. Every flaw in our defenses was designed to make you overconfident." West watched as human ships simply appeared inside his fleet's formation, bypassing their defensive lines using technology that shouldn't exist. They had mastered principles of physics that the Empire had deemed impossible. "Here's the truth," Thomas concluded. "Humans never stopped being warriors. We never truly believed in eternal peace. While the galaxy celebrated 3,000 years without war, we prepared. We built. We planned. Because we knew that someday someone would mistake our acceptance of peace for weakness." The human fleet moved as one, surrounding the Empire's forces in a perfect sphere of ships. They had turned the entire solar system into one giant trap, and the Empire had walked right into it. "Now," Thomas said, his voice carrying the weight of 2 centuries of preparation, "would you like to see what else we've been hiding?" The Empire's fleet faced a terrible choice: retreat in shame, or stay and face weapons they had never imagined from an enemy they had fatally underestimated. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest deception hadn't been hiding their strength. It had been hiding just how strong they truly were. 200 years ago, in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's leaders gathered for humanity's most important meeting. The room was filled with military commanders, scientists, and politicians from every nation. On the massive screen before them, they watched Earth's first contact with alien life. "They call themselves the Galactic Council," the young Admiral Jones reported. He would later become the first human to serve on the council. They offer us peace, knowledge, and a place among the stars. In the back of the room, a general raised his hand. And you don't trust them? Jones smiled. No, sir. I don't. And neither should you. The meeting that followed would shape humanity's next 2 centuries. As the Stellar Empire's fleet now retreated from their failed attack on Earth, Admiral Thomas watched the recording of that historic day. Our ancestors were clever, Thomas said to General Miller as they stood in the Luna Command Center. They saw what no other species in the galaxy understood. The recording showed Jones pointing to data about the various alien species. Look at their history, he said in the video. 3,000 years of peace. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But it's also dangerous. They've forgotten something that humanity never can. Peace is precious precisely because it can end. Thomas paused the recording. That was when we decided on our strategy. We would join their peace, but we would never trust it completely. The scene shifted to 20 years after first contact. Human scientists presented their work to alien observers. They showed simple fusion reactors, basic shield technology, and weapons that made the aliens smile with gentle superiority. But in hidden labs across Earth and its colonies, humanity's real work continued. They studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They tested every weakness, explored every flaw. They built weapons specifically designed to counter alien defenses, all while pretending to barely understand basic spaceflight. The Empire thought they knew everything about us, Miller said, watching the old footage. Every spy they sent, every scan they made, every trade deal they signed, all of it showed them exactly what we wanted them to see. The recording showed human ships visiting alien worlds. They were bulky, slow, and primitive-looking. But hidden beneath those ugly exteriors were sensors mapping every alien defense system, every military installation, every potential threat. We even let them win all the war games, Thomas chuckled. Remember those joint military exercises? We used our decoy ships, made simple mistakes, let them think they were far superior. The screen showed diplomatic meetings where human representatives played their roles perfectly. They acted impressed by alien technology, asked simple questions, and pretended to struggle with concepts they had already mastered. But our greatest trick, Thomas said, was hiding our nature. They thought we had changed, that 200 years of peace had made us soft. They never understood that humans don't change. We adapt. We prepare. We wait. In the present day, the remains of the Empire's fleet limped home, carrying with them the truth about humanity. They had finally learned what Earth's leaders had known 2 centuries ago. True strength lies not in showing your power, but in making others underestimate it. The recording ended with Jones's final words from that first meeting. Let them think us weak. Let them think us primitive. Let them think us foolish, because when they finally learn the truth, it will be too late. Admiral Thomas turned off the screen and looked out at the stars through the command center's window. 200 years of deception, of careful planning, of patient preparation, all for this moment. General Miller nodded. Should we tell the Council the full truth now? Thomas smiled. No. Let's keep a few surprises in reserve. After all, he gestured to the tactical display showing the retreating Empire ships. We might need them again someday. Because that was the final truth, the one that the Empire had learned too late. Humanity hadn't spent 2 centuries preparing for war. They had spent it preparing to win. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the recordings played. On the massive screens, they watched the Empire's fleet being torn apart by human weapons. Representatives from 100 species sat in shocked silence as they saw the true face of human military power. The Stellar Empire's diplomatic team sat in shame as their fleet commander's final report echoed through the chamber. They were ready for us. West's voice trembled. Everything we knew about them was wrong. Everything. Ambassador Brown stood at the center of the chamber, his calm smile never wavering. Around him, Alien representatives who had once looked down on humans now shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For 2 centuries, Brown said, you all thought you understood humanity. You saw what we showed you. A young, eager species happy to learn from our galactic elders. He walked slowly around the chamber. You watched us struggle with basic technology. You helped us understand simple concepts. You guided us like children. The screens now showed hidden human bases emerging across the solar system. Weapons that shouldn't exist. Ships that broke the laws of physics as the Empire understood them. But now you're wondering. Brown continued, what else have we hidden? What other surprises do we have waiting? He stopped walking. And most importantly, you're wondering, are we next? The leader of the rock people, a species made of living crystal, spoke up. Why? Their translator buzzed. Why deceive us for so long? Brown's smile faded. Because we learned from history. Every empire, every civilization, every lasting peace in human history ended the same way. Someone got too confident. Someone got too greedy. Someone thought they were strong enough to break the peace. More recordings played, showing human ships using technology that made even the most advanced council species gasp. Weapons that could pierce any shield. Defenses that made their best attacks useless. We knew this day would come, Brown said. We knew someone would mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. The only question was who. He looked directly at the Empire's representatives. You simply happened to be first. The Empire's head diplomat stood up. We wish to surrender. No, Brown replied simply. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. No, the head diplomat asked, shocked. Surrender implies you still have armies to give up, ships to stand down, weapons to turn over. Brown clicked a button, and the screen showed the current state of the Empire's fleet, or what was left of it. You don't. In the past week, we've destroyed or disabled 90% of your military forces. The alien representatives watched in awe as human ships systematically took apart the Empire's defenses, not with brute force, but with precise, calculated strikes that showed years of planning. Instead of surrender, Brown said, we offer a choice. The Stellar Empire will be disbanded. Its worlds will be free to govern themselves. And humanity. He paused, looking around the chamber. Humanity will take responsibility for maintaining the peace you all cherished for 3,000 years. The council leader leaned forward. You would be the galaxy's peacekeepers. Who better? Brown asked. We never forgot how to fight. We never stopped preparing for war. And most importantly, we never trusted that peace would last forever. As the council debated, more reports came in. Human ships had secured the Empire's capital. Their leaders had been arrested. Their military was in ruins, all without a single human casualty. Let this be a lesson, Brown concluded. Humanity values peace. We desire peace. We will fight for peace, but we will never, ever be foolish enough to think it's guaranteed. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would become the guardians of galactic peace, protecting the very tranquility they had pretended to barely understand. As the chamber emptied, an aide approached Brown. Sir, should we reveal our remaining capabilities? Brown laughed softly. No, let's keep some secrets. After all, he looked out at the stars. Someone else might need a lesson someday. 1 year after the war, the Galactic Council gathered for a special ceremony. A new species was joining the galactic community. They called themselves the Star Runners, and their ships had reached the edge of Council space 3 months ago. The Star Runners' chief representative stood nervously in the center of the crystal chamber. Like all new species, they had prepared elaborate speeches about peace, cooperation, and friendship. But something was distracting them. In the human section of the chamber, Admiral Thomas and Ambassador Brown were laughing quietly. The Star Runners' leader couldn't help asking, why do the humans laugh? Have we done something wrong? The council leader looked uncomfortable. No, they always laugh at these ceremonies. It's best not to ask why. But the Star Runners were curious, like all young species. Their leader turned to Brown. "Please, tell us what amuses you. We wish to understand." Brown shared a look with Thomas. "Are you sure? The answer might disturb you." "We are sure." Thomas stood up. "Walk with me." He led the Star Runners' leader to a viewing window overlooking the Council's capital world. "What do you see out there?" "Peace," the alien leader replied. 3,000 years of civilization and harmony. Look closer. Among the civilian ships moving through space, there were others. Black vessels that seemed to drink in the light. Human warships patrolling with quiet purpose. 1 year ago, Thomas explained, another species thought they could break the peace. They thought they were the strongest, the most advanced, the most prepared. He smiled. They were wrong. On cue, a massive human ship emerged from faster-than-light travel. It was beautiful, powerful, and clearly more advanced than anything the Star Runners had ever seen. For 200 years, Thomas continued, humanity pretended to be primitive. We hid our strength. We played the part of the eager student, the young species happy to learn. He turned to face the alien leader. "Do you know why?" The Star Runner leader shook their head. "Because we understood something that the galaxy had forgotten. Peace isn't maintained by treaties or councils or good intentions. Peace is maintained by the knowledge that breaking it would be suicide." Ambassador Brown joined them. "That's why we laugh at these ceremonies. Because every new species comes here talking about eternal peace, about how war is behind them." He gestured to the human ships. "We know better. Are you threatening us?" The Star Runner leader asked nervously. "No," Thomas replied. "We're protecting you. Right now, your ships are scanning ours, trying to understand our technology. Your analysts are studying our capabilities. Your leaders are assessing our strength." Brown nodded. "And you're discovering that we're far more advanced than you, that any conflict would end badly for you. That peace with humanity isn't just the moral choice, it's the only logical one. That's why the Empire failed," Thomas added. "They thought they were seeing everything. They never considered that an entire species could hide its true nature for centuries, waiting patiently, preparing endlessly." The Star Runner leader looked out at the human ships again, understanding finally dawning. "You're not just peacekeepers. You're predators pretending to be guardians." Brown laughed again. "No, we're guardians who remember how to be predators. There's a difference." He put a hand on the alien leader's shoulder. "Welcome to the galactic community. Enjoy the peace. Contribute to it. Celebrate it. But remember," Thomas finished, "somewhere out there, humans are watching. We're building. We're preparing. Not because we want war, but because we want peace so badly that we'll never stop being ready for war." As they walked back to the ceremony, the Star Runner leader finally understood why humans laughed at these events. They weren't mocking the proceedings. They were laughing at a private joke that had taken 2 centuries to tell. The punchline was simple. In a galaxy that had forgotten how to bare its teeth, humanity had never lost its bite. They had just gotten better at hiding it.